Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this UDP 9.0 webinar. We still have a few people trickling in, so we're going to give it another couple minutes before we get it started here. Thank you. Welcome everybody. We're going to start here in another minute as we have a couple people trickling in, so bear with us. Just give us another 60 seconds and we will get this started. All right, thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you sit. My name is Will Worley. I am on the channel marketing team here at Arcserve, and I'm accompanied by Stacy Budd, who is one of our principal consultants. I actually gave him a different title, so apologize about that. Today we'll be talking about UDP, our Unified Data Protection platform, specifically some 9.0 updates and features that are coming down the pipe. Stacy, next slide, please. So just some house cleaning. We're going to be giving away not one, but two $250 Amex gift cards. So please make sure to stay on. You have to be present to win at the end of the presentation. Also, once we conclude this webinar, we'll also send out a link to the recording and to the presentation in case you want to review that again or pass along to any colleagues that you might have. With that being said, let's get to the fun stuff, and I will pass along to Mr. Stacy Budd.
All right, thank you there, Will, and just making sure everybody can hear me okay. You can hear me all right?
Yep, you're good, Stacy.
Fantastic. So we're going to take a look at Unified Data Protection from Arcserve, and a couple other pieces to that puzzle as well. We'll talk about that. We're going to do the obligatory slides in the beginning, a little bit of why we're all here from that perspective. So we'll go ahead and start with number one. I've been in this industry since about '97, and I can tell you data's always been booming, right? It's been growing from that perspective. And security is always a concern when it comes to your data as well, okay, from that. So we do continue to see that. We continue to see ransomware attacks get smarter and smarter from that perspective. They do a lot of damage. I don't think this is news to anybody, so I'm not going to spend too much time beating that horse. But it makes things difficult, right, to be able to secure that data, so that you don't have to pay those ransoms and those kind of things. It has prompted what we used to have was a 3-2-1 world, right, where we'd have 3 copies of your data, 2 different types of media, one at an offsite location. That could be cloud, it could be offsite to tape, right, from that side. What it has prompted the change when it comes to ransomware was really prompted this immutability change, okay, where now we're in a 3-2-1 world or a 3-2-2 world, depending on who you're talking to. The immutable piece of it is starting to be required by cyber insurance companies. So we're seeing more and more customers that do require that their backups and their data be immutable. And for us, immutability means that that data can't be changed. It's a non-changeable state from within that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the current solutions and what we do currently, and then we'll talk about UDP 9. Number one, we're all about data resilience, right? Your ability to quickly recover your data in case that disaster occurs, right? You lose access to your data and those kind of things. So we're going to talk a little bit about data resilience, and what are those things that prompt the need for data resilience. Number one, ransomware attacks, right? But there's a lot of other things besides ransomware that are out there. Data gets corrupted, people advertently delete it. The number one cause for loss of data is still human error, right? It's something like 75, 80% of the reason for data loss out there. Okay, so and then of course you have other things. You have hardware failures, you have natural disasters, those kind of things. Okay. So what can you do, right? Number one, that you need to protect those data environments, right? You need to secure them. You need to make them highly available where you can. You need to have it immutable according to cyber insurance, right? And not just according to cyber insurance. It's a good idea to have it immutable anyways, right? But anytime cost is driving it, right? If people are required to carry cyber insurance, they're pushing that, so it just makes it easier for everybody to go to their bosses and say, hey, we need this solution because it meets our requirements for cyber insurance and those kind of things. Right? And when we look at this kind of thing, we look at risk, cost, and time, right? So there's always, three factors to anything, right? And cost is always going to be one of those factors, okay? Whether you're looking at security, business continuity, or whatever you're looking at within that, okay? And when you kind of really look at, the onion, you peel back the layers, right? Business continuity, keeping your data available. Disaster recovery, being able to quickly be able to access those systems and those applications. And we always need to restore files and folders and those kind of things as well. When we look at the different platforms, and the platform that the UDP platform for that, first off, you see tape backup there. Tape backup up there. Everybody may say, ooh, tape. We still hear that tape is prevalent in the industry. Okay. We still offer the ability to go to tape. I'd say most of our customers aren't going to tape. They're going to cloud. They're going to some other type of media. But it still is in some organizations where they still need to go to tape. Maybe not as a first level of backup, but as a second tier or something like that as well. And then on the left, we also see that on-prem immutable storage, right, solution. So being able to have an on-prem place to have that data immutable, be able to pull it back from. Having it immutable in the cloud is great, but if you have a large amount of data and you have to pull that back down from the cloud, right, that's going to be where your pain point is. Not saying it can't be done, right? We do support, immutable cloud-based immutable storage as well, but having that on-prem, copy is always going to be a lot less painful when you need to pull a lot of it back. In fact, we see some organizations that move their data up to the cloud, or not their data, but their backups, or maybe data from on-prem, and they have a copy of it in the cloud, and then they still have that on-prem piece for it as well. So the cloud is a last resort for them as far as that goes. So the other ones, I'm not going to go through every one of these, right? But, secure, you got to make sure your data is secure. You got to make sure that you have the ability to spin up, either in the cloud or on-prem, those things as well. So when we talk about Arcserve, what gives us the right to talk to you? Number one, we've been in the industry a long time. Okay, we've been probably, one of the longest companies in this industry, right? We've seen the ebbs, we've seen the flows, we've seen how things have changed to, they were first more of a centralized kind of data set, then spread out. Now it's becoming centralized again, and those kind of things. We've seen that kind of change, and we've been able to adjust to those things as well. We are a worldwide company, right? And we do have partners across the globe. That gives us, experience. That gives us, experience with different type of operating systems, different types of customers that kind of, if you think about here in the US, I'll give a good example of this. Here in the US, we're primarily a Windows country. To be honest with you, we have some customers that have Linux and those kind of things, but primarily, most of the people I talk to are running Windows. Right? If I go to Europe or I go to Asia, or even in some cases South America, right? They're primarily a Linux kind of environment. Yes, it's still Windows is still prevalent there, but you're going to see a lot more of those other architectures. And what's that mean for you is, well, we have experience with all of those. So if you come up and you have questions and you need support for those, guess what? Since we're a worldwide company, we do need to support those other things as well. Okay. When you look at our portfolio, we had the pleasure of merging with a company which gave us access to kind of one area that we didn't cover, and that was our MSP kind of footprint within there. Yeah, we had played around a little bit in there, but we just did not really have a good footprint there. And StorageCraft did. Not only did that, but StorageCraft had an immutability hardware appliance that really didn't fit into their MSP market. Guess what? It fit perfectly into our market from that perspective. So what we're going to focus on today is really the mid-market, mid-enterprise, even a little bit into this higher level, right? And that's the UDP line, okay, from within that. Well, we do scale down, we scale up as well, very, very, very well within that. Sticking in that resilience platform kind of thing, right? One last slide on it, right? Availability, security, recoverability, and scalability of your data, right? That's really what we're talking about here, okay? We're an availability first, recovery first kind of company from that perspective, okay? And the other things fall into place, right? If we have to focus on recovery of your data, well, then it has to be secure and so forth, okay? We do have a building block approach when it comes to the unified data protection itself, where things, bolt onto with it, and we'll take a look at that as far as that goes. We do things within our solution that inherently make it less expensive for you to implement. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that too. So we talk about lower cost of ownership. Sometimes I'll be in a competitive situation with somebody and they'll say, well, this vendor X said we need this much storage, we need this, and you're presenting something with half the storage, right? So I need you to present out the other, and then we need to explain. I'll get into a little bit of deduplication, those kind of things, and the way that we handle things differently as well. Okay. So a lot of times in those cases, yes, we can come in, we can utilize less storage, and we can make your total cost of ownership quite a bit less on that side. Also, when you talk about the UDP solution, it's available in two ways. It's available as software where you can use your own hardware, okay, your own storage, your own cloud environment, right? Or you can go out and you can, leverage the Arcserve appliance lines, right? We have everything from our 9000 series appliances, which range from 4 terabytes up to 150 some odd terabytes usable space on that box. Our X series boxes, which start at 352 terabytes of data, right? And that's pre-deduplication. Okay, so very, very large, can handle multi-petabytes on those boxes. Okay. What do we sell most of? Probably the 9000 series. And with our partner with Nutanix, we have a Nutanix node that can slide into a Nutanix environment and take advantage of that object-based storage and sit right in there as well. Okay, so we do support that not only as a hypervisor, but also slide right into their infrastructure. So a quick overview. I'm going to go through these slides a little bit quick. I hope everybody's a little bit familiar with unified data protection, but if you're not, we're going to do a quick overview of the unified data protection solution that supports Windows, Linux, physical, virtual, agentless protection for VMware, Hyper-V, Nutanix. We can still support other hypervisors out there. We support the common applications. Really what you see on the left-hand side of this, whether if any of this changes, right? I'm protecting a physical machine versus a virtual machine. I'm protecting a share, right? Or something like that, or a Nutanix volume, right? When we look at this, your experience within the solution, we put a lot of effort that it does not change, right? Or it's minimal change. But just because your source data is changing, there's no reason for us to send you somewhere else within the tool. So we put a lot of effort within there from that perspective. Okay. The next piece to that is, it is easy for you to support, distributed environments where you have branch offices and those kind of things as well. So we can replicate the data to other locations. We don't charge for that piece, which is the backup server. We charge for the data that you're protecting, right? So if you have a server environment in another location, or you have another location where you could put a server, you could replicate that other server. Yeah, you have to cover the hardware and all for that, right? But from our perspective, you don't have to, and that could be up in the cloud as well. We'll speak to that going forward here as well. We also have our own cloud environment, and we support public and private cloud too. Okay, so we can be the whole puzzle, or we can be a piece to that puzzle. And then lastly, going through this is we see the S on there for secure, really it's for Sophos, right? We provide a license for the backup server itself for Sophos InterceptX Advanced Edition. When we talk about security and making sure that your data is secure, the number one thing to recognize, we're not a security company. Okay. If we decided to play in the security market, guess what? We'd probably get it wrong. And we hear this about some of our competitors out there as well, right? First thing people do is they turn off the security on those solutions because they start to get all these false positives, okay? Or they let them know, hey, we think your data's been encrypted. Well, that's a little bit too late. The reality is most companies out there already have a solution in place to protect their endpoints, their servers in that environment. What we really need to do is focus on protecting the backup server itself. And guess what? If you don't want to use the Sophos solution, you don't have to. Okay. So it's an option for you. It doesn't cost you anything. We provide the license for that. Okay. And we also provide the support for it. So any of the pieces that we can provide the support for, like our own cloud, our own hardware, you can pick up the phone, you can call Arcserve. When we talk about, from a perspective of, being able to recover your data, again, guaranteed reliable recovery, being able to reduce the cost, right, of the overall but backup and the total cost of ownership for that. And then of course, it all comes back to resilience, right? Being able to do that, right? Being able to do things like leverage multi-factor authentication and have secure backups and, protect your environment securely. Now, I'm not a Sophos guy, meaning I don't work for them, right? But we do think it's worth just showing you real quick what that InterceptX Advanced gives you, right? So deep learning, root cause analysis, being able to lock down applications, whitelist, definitely give you the ability to lock down that box and be able to do that. And if you're a Sophos house, you can manage this from your Sophos console that you use to manage everything else. So it's just another license that you plug into that. Okay. If not, it would be the only one that you'd have in. Okay. From a perspective of UDP and the features that are inherently with this product, before we go into our new release, UDP 9, okay. First off, being able to restore entire systems, whether they're physical, whether they're virtual, right? Being able to do that recovery. We're a recovery first company, right? Being able to spin up those backups for disaster recovery, pre-planned where we create a virtual machine from it, or ad hoc where we emulate the backups of virtual machine. Give you the ability to do that. Number one within all of this, great, it's fantastic. You can back up your data. I don't think you should ever trust a backup, right? Nobody should ever put their job on the line on a backup that they haven't tested, they haven't verified. So we have automated testing within the product to be able to set that up and be able to go in and know that your backups are going to be work if you need them, right? That's called assured recovery for us. Yeah. Now you can still go in and manually test your backups, and I would still propose that most people still do that because you're also testing your own ability and other things like that as well. What if you're out, somebody else is in, all those kind of things from that perspective. And we talk about, being able to restore entire systems. Of course, you can restore files, folders, those kind of things as well. Okay. When it comes to cloud, we support cloud in a number of ways. We have some customers that have deployed us up in the cloud. We have other customers that, use the cloud as a destination for that, whether our cloud, public cloud, all of that as well. We don't charge egress from the Arcserve cloud, so keep that in mind. If you have 10 terabytes on site, you're licensed for 10 terabytes in the cloud, you can pull down 10 terabytes of data. As far as the backups, I talked about it, physical Windows, Linux, virtual, agentless backups. Big part of what we do is this at source global deduplication, where we do not require a landing zone for our data. We've determined the unique data before it goes across the network. So your storage can be dedicated to the backups. Okay, not for the deduplication process. So you have to set aside a certain amount of space to do that. And that's where we start to shine above some of the competitors. That's why when they talk about storage, they're like, you need 15 terabytes, and we go in and we say you need 10 terabytes or 8 terabytes, right? Because we don't need to land the data from within there. Of course, being able to back up everything securely, supporting the common databases out there, being able to air gap with tape, that's all within us, right? All within the backup approach for us. And being able to replicate the data to other locations, being able to certain requirements, role-based administration, and another layer of security. Again, multi-factor authentication, those kind of things are going to be required under management. And then you pull it all back together with immutability, right? So having the ability to take and have that immutable copy. So in this diagram, we're taking and we have our backup environment. We're backing it up to our what we call our RPS, which is secured by Sophos. That backup should be, in my opinion, encrypted, but that's up to you. You could go ahead and replicate that up to S3, have that be immutable up there if you want to. You could take and have disaster recovery available, virtual standby, pre-planned. You could go ahead and replicate it to a OneXafe device on-prem, and you could replicate that to another one off-prem, okay, if you wanted to do that as well. We have some customers that, I have one that has a OneXafe cluster here in Florida, and they have another one in Colorado, okay? And there's other examples of that too, right? But all different kind of environments where you may have, that OneXafe environment, and then you go ahead and have another one somewhere else so that you can have it offsite. Okay. Now, when we look at UDP 9, okay, UDP 9 will be released next month. Is what we're looking for, a release date on that. And really our objectives for this solution is, strengthening that data resilience, okay? We recognize that we're in a SaaS kind of environment now, right? Software as a service. So being able to, leverage, a management feature that fits into that, okay? Improve support for enterprise applications. We're going to talk about that. Making a better end user experience. We'll kind of show you a little bit of that as well. And unifying some of our management pieces to that as well. Okay. When we look at the the SaaS side of it, let me stay on the screen for a minute. When we look at the SaaS side of it, more and more customers, um, they don't want to have to, be in the office. They don't want to have to be on the network. They want to manage everything from the cloud. And that's really what this is going to give you the ability to do. Okay, so we have UDP 9, and then a feature of UDP, of course, is the ability to have our cloud-based management within there too, right? So you can have an on-prem console, you can have a console in the cloud. Okay, so you're going to choose which one that you want. Okay, when it comes to that cloud-based console, everything you expect to see in a console: multilingual support, um, easy to use console, right? You don't have to install anything. You're just enabling that console, putting in where your backup servers are, and kind of doing that as well. Now it's interesting, it says multi-tenant capabilities. I don't want to scare people off, because when we think about multi-tenant, in this case, yes, it could work for MSPs, but it's also, I see a lot of customers that have distributed environments. Okay, maybe I have a school district, right? And each school has its own little server. Okay, we want to break that out and manage those separately. Maybe it's factories, right? We will manage those separately. All different kind of things. Maybe dentist's office, doctor's offices, right? Those kind of things as well. So when we say multi-tenant, we're not always talking about MSP and multi-customer. When I show those, think of this as well, right? If you have multiple places with servers, right? Being able to manage all those from one location. Okay. And then, increasing our identity management piece to this, right? Central user accounts, right? Make things simpler. And when they make things simpler, right? In some ways they make them more secure. Other ways, sometimes they can be. It depends on the way that the things are being simplified, right? But in this case, right, being able to leverage things like Okta and things like that as well. Okay. One view of the dashboard for not only your UDP solution, but your Cloud Direct solution. We're not really going into Cloud Direct today, but Cloud Direct is our, as the name implies, direct to cloud backup solution. We don't need an on-prem backup, right? It goes directly to the Arcserve cloud from that. And then being able to see those dashboards, those reports that you can break down by the different tenants, by the different sites that you might have, okay? And be able to leverage that as well. We've been leveraging on the back end in some ways, cloud and different things like that. Now we're starting to expose that to our customers, where you can leverage object-based storage, and you can have, your data stores up in S3 or Wasabi. We'll have a list here in a moment, right? And being able to leverage that. So Google Cloud's the other one that I almost left out there. And then, of course, those, we continue to look at our workflows as everything's architected out, right? So try and enhance that. One thing that I always hear from customers is once they used it once or twice, they're like, it's really simple to use. Okay? When we look at that cloud interface, here's an image of it, right? We can easily see our different systems deployed. We can see our sources. We can see everything. We can access everything from here. And if you currently use Cloud Console for Cloud Direct, it'll look very similar to you. Okay. So being able to go out, now we're going to have UDP be able to manage from there. And we'll go into, we'll change a couple terms, we'll, instead of plans, you'll have policies right up in the cloud. But at the end of the day, it's the same kind of approach for things. Okay. Of course, being able to go out and see those reports of, what's running, what's your data destinations look like, how much space is your index and your hashing taking up, all of that within there as well from that perspective. Okay. And then, of course, being able to create those, tenants, those, suborgs, those other locations, or for an MSP for, your customers that are going that. Being able to see how much data is being stored at each location, being able to break down and not only see, your UDP information, but also your Cloud Direct if you have some of that, And then also being able to do things like set usage quotas to be able to do that as well if you need to. And then being able to add those cloud accounts, right? So being able to right within that console, add your cloud account so you can easily take and move that data over to it. And we kind of look at this going through and creating that cloud object-based storage as your data store. Now your index, your hash is still going to be local, but that's going to be replicated and synced up to the cloud as well. So there's going to be 2 copies of that. Okay? So definitely giving you the ability to be able to leverage, you know, object-based storage and cloud-based storage for those cases too, as a replication target or as a direct target too. And this is a good example of where we're taking, we have our sources. Notice there's no sources added to this. Well, guess what? Once I'm in my console, I just click on my source and say, apply this policy to it. It's that simple. Or when I'm creating the policy, I can assign the sources. It's how you want to do it. Okay. In this example, they're doing a local backup. That's what we see here to this data store 1, DS1. And then they're taking or replicating the data up to an S3 environment in this case, I think it is. Now, when we look at enhancements to current, you know, things that we have in there today, one of the things, and we'll talk about Oracle a little bit after SQL, but one of the things that we really excelled with was our Oracle support. We leveraged, you know, a version and a half ago, Oracle RMAN support within our product. We did a lot with Oracle. Okay, but on the SQL side, we were kind of lagging behind. And when I say we were lagging behind, you know, the capability was within the product, but you had to go to command line and those kind of things, do point in time restores. And in some cases, yes, we were lagging behind on it. So we're finally catching up with the SQL side of it. So being able to enhance that point in time recovery, bringing it into the interface so that you don't have to do command line. If you want to, it's still there for you, right? But then also recognizing other areas that we could be able to enhance as well. Being able to, you know, take and understand individual database size and recovery. So if you're recovering just a single database out of there, you understand what that database size is and those kind of pieces. Being able to, once you do that restore, to run an integrity test on it and make sure, you know, what that restore is going to work, right? That there's no issues with it from that side. Worst time to find out is, you know, when you present it out to somebody, right? Oh yeah, it works. It's restored. No, it's not. What are some of the other SQL enhancements we did? Again, being able to restore SQL databases to alternate servers, alternate paths, you know, alternate locations from there. Again, being able to do recovery mode, no recovery mode for those as well. Okay, being able to leverage file streams right before the restore takes into effect and those kind of things too. And when we take a look at what it looks like within the interface, number one, to do point in time, it's just an option here when we go through our restore process, right? Or our backup process within this, right? So we're going to go through, we're going to modify the plan, we're going to tell it to enable that point in time recovery for our SQL server. And then when I go in and do my restore, I'm going to be able to see my database sizes easily, right? I don't have to delve into it or anything like that. I just expand my database and then I can see my individual databases. Okay. And then we can run that consistency check after the restore is complete to be able to do that as well. And of course, being able to restore to different systems, different paths, and different locations from that perspective. Right? Giving you more granular control over the destinations, folders, and those kind of pieces as well. right? So we see it kind of down here at the bottom from that perspective. When it comes to Oracle, we're not going to sleep on Oracle, right? Need to continue to keep current, so giving you the ability to do, those granular restores of pluggable databases, right through the interface, right to the original location. We can leverage that RMAN integration. Okay, we see a lot of Oracle on Solaris, so being able to support Oracle sitting on x64 platforms, we do that as well. And again, full database level restores, granular recovery, all that available from that multi-platform support. When we look at the user experience, right? Again, a focus on stability here as well. Okay, being able to go in and see things like backup success rates, being able to see things like daily, weekly, monthly backups, policies, those kind of things. We'll talk about that in a moment. Being able to also go in and support that virtual standby, that DR, up to Azure, leveraging their Generation 2 environment, right? So Hyper-V Generation 2, we can support that up in Azure too, so that now you can go up and we had some customers that were leveraging that, but then when they tried to go to Azure, it wasn't supported. Well, now it is. Okay, from within that. So be able to spin up those VMs up in that environment and get that better experience from that perspective as well. Now the bottom one's I'm a big fan of this. It's probably of everything listed, my favorite. Okay, doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but I'll tell you. Whenever I looked at a customer and they were running out of space in their environment, the very first thing I would look at is their type of backups they were doing, daily, weekly, monthlies. Okay, and they would have these custom backups, right? And the custom backups would hang out there. Even if we're keeping one of them, we're never getting rid of that because we have policy around our dailies, our weeklies, our monthlies, a retention policy. And although we might have a retention policy around the custom backups, right? It was always to keep at least one. And a lot of times when people install the product, first thing they want to do is they want to go out and test it and back up the server. Well, if it's a server with a high change rate, you're backing it up and you're telling it to keep that backup forever, right? Or until you do another custom. Well, now when we do that custom, we can label that custom as a daily, custom weekly, custom monthly. And guess what? When now it'll fall into that retention that you have for your daily, weekly, monthlies. So it'll get trimmed, and that's going to save a lot of customers on storage space. Okay, it was an easy thing for me to go in, identify, give the task to some customers to be able to clean up, and to be able to do that. But now they don't have to worry about doing that. Another big thing that we did on our reports, we would show, successful backups, we would show, or successful jobs, I should say, failed jobs, but incomplete, we didn't always report on that very well, that if something, it completed, but, it didn't 100% complete. Now we're going to have that incomplete job status report. So it's going to be a lot clearer, a lot easier for people to understand from that point. And then, of course, security is always a big concern of ours. Microsoft has moved away from, I think it's Auth 1.0, right? So going to 2.0 now, and of course we're going to support that. Okay, from that side, you're going to see a big emphasis on this, of course, with Office 365, Google Cloud, those kind of things. So, we've gone to supporting that as well. The other thing that we're able to do now is go in and do a reclamation of the data, remove old custom recovery points. It comes back to, my earlier comment about that as well. When we take a look at our backup success rate report, right, showing, what we see from this perspective, custom groups, being able to set your data range from within that, and being able to see that success report within there, okay? And be able to see that specifically for dailies, weeklies, monthlies, different type of backups for that as well. When we look at that backup retention, right, and going in and saying, you know what, let's do this backup. Here's an example of that on ad hoc backup now, right, or custom backup, and we can say save this as a monthly, daily, or weekly. Here we see over on the right hand side, you guys can't see my finger very well, I'm pointing with my finger, not my mouse. You see this over here, this note that's saying, hey, this backup, we're labeling this custom backup as a monthly, it's going to count towards your monthly retention. Okay. When we look at that reclamation, right, again, let's go ahead and reclaim. We don't want to have any customs, so let's go ahead and reclaim that storage space. So here's a good example. We have 7 dailies, 5 weeklies, 32 monthlies. There's times when people have custom backup. So custom backup for us was, you know, every hour, every 30 minutes, every 15 minutes, whatever it might be, twice a day, 3 times a day, right? Something that's more frequent than every day. That's a custom schedule, right? But then it also lumped in this manual, right? So if I wasn't doing custom backups and I didn't have a retention built in for that, right? I was doing manual backups. That's where it could cause that problem. So now we could go in and trim that down. And again, being able to, when you set up your email settings, being able to use that auth to, or OAuth, I'm not sure how you quite say that, but being able to support that authentication piece too, as far as that goes. Not going to spend a lot of time going through all the different new, you know, supported OSs, you know, from that Rocky Linux, Alma Linux. Those are new for us. Of course, the latest versions of Windows, etc. for that as well. All right. So in summary, I think I just about hit my goal here of being 45 minutes. When we look at Arcserve and we look at you know, specifically UDP and our approach to backing up, protecting your data, making it that resilient platform to be able to be resilient against ransomware, right? How are we going to do that? Again, leveraging our unified data protection with, you know, intelligently using that storage with our global source side deduplication, right? Being able to support different workloads, different, you know, physical, virtual, whatever it might be, right? Being able to test those backups, being able to securely protect those backups with our partnership with Sophos InterceptX Advanced Edition, leveraging their tools, right? They're the experts, right? Being able to secure that solution. And then, of course, still being able to leverage things like air gap that data, make it immutable, right? Move the data to different types of immutability, right? So be able to leverage the on-prem OneXafe device with Arcserve, or be able to move that data up to S3 compatible, like Wasabi, of course, S3, right? And Google Cloud Storage as well. And we're going to add to that, right? You'll see us add other cloud vendors on there too. We're not going to stop there. And then, of course, if we still want somebody that want that physical air gap, right? Not just a logical air gap, we can still support tape to be able to do that as well. Okay. Again, Arcserve UDP secured by Sophos. It can be software, it can be hardware. We support cloud-based workloads, and we can make that data immutable. We support cloud immutability, on-prem immutability. We have scale out, you know, storage, right? As far as that goes, definitely, you know, when we look at having those backups and having a secure data protection kind of environment from that, I think we bring a lot to the table from that. In fact, I know we do. Okay, as far as that goes, and we should be able to slide into just about any kind of environment out there. So, you know, I encourage everybody, reach out to us. We'd love to demo the product to you. Okay, so we can get it in your hands. We have different options as far as that goes. And with that, I'm right at 2:45. So I'm gonna hand it back over to Will, but I appreciate everybody's time today and taking the time to listen to me rattle on about UDP and UDP 9.
Awesome. Thank you, Stacy. Before we do the drawing for the 2 gift cards, going to leave it open for a minute if you have questions. Stacy, we do have one in the chat. I think I know the answer here, but how can retailers repel cyber criminals and avoid the perils of ransomware? I believe you kind of touched on that with obviously having a comprehensive plan and obviously test, right? Test the plan. But do you maybe, dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest with you. Our approach, we're not going to repel ransomware, right? We hope that you have a good security solution in place. We hope that you train your users not to click on things, but things happen, right? It's happened to me before. I got an email that I was expecting to get, but guess what? It was not the email I was expecting to get, right? So accidents happen from that perspective. So the best trained people sometimes still make mistakes. So really the key is here, what can we do so that your data is resilient, so that you can still recover that data if needed, okay, from that perspective. And you can't just trust a backup, right? Sure, we can back up that data, we can secure that backup with Sophos, we can do all those kind of things, but we can also have that backup be immutable. So if something does sneak through the cracks, right, we can still roll back those changes with immutability, be able to do that. It's about having that whole piece of the puzzle, right? We can be a piece of the puzzle, or we can be the entire puzzle for that, as far as that goes. So it's a good question, and again, we're about making sure that data is resilient, your backups are resilient, and you can quickly recover in case something like that does happen to you.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. All right. I think there's no other questions coming in. I know I answered a few of you directly in the chat. But now to announce the big winners to get $250 in your pocket for the holidays coming up. So winner number 1 is David Sweeney with Paragon Micro. And for the second $250 gift card, we have, and I apologize if I mess up your last name, but it's Don Schoenkein with SSAI. So David and Don, I will send you an email directly to confirm where you want those gift cards sent here the next few minutes when we close the webinar. Just as a reminder, you will get an email from us with a link to the recording and the presentation if you'd like to review this again or share with any of your colleagues. But we definitely appreciate your time today. Stacy, thank you for going into UDP 9.0 for us. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day and have a great holiday couple weeks coming up. Thank you.